7 million people have some kind of medical device implanted in their bodies. A joint, a pump, a piece of wire or mesh. Now, we expect these devices to undergo rigorous testing, but the KVUE Defenders uncovered the FDA does not require the same standards for medical devices as it does for pharmaceuticals. Here's investigator Terry Gruca. The make, the model, the serial number, any kind of problem ever reported is easy to find online when it comes to most any product. Car seats, cars, toys. But as one Austin mom discovered, finding that information on a device that is implanted in your body is difficult.
They bring me a lot of joy and they remind me not to be afraid. And knowing that they used to be used in the industry to test products, I can just really relate. We were, without our own consent, made to be guinea pigs.
I stayed in shape, I ran, I did everything I was supposed to do. I'm so mad! I had to do this twice.
When hope is fading.
And it's been like this for so many years.
And dreams seem dashed.
I was gonna take him skiing, I was gonna play basketball with him.
Sometimes
I was gonna be a good mom.
You have nothing left to lose.
And they took all that from me.
Sharing this part of life is not easy for Frances Scott. But for 10 years, it was her life.
Good afternoon from the Raleigh Eyewitness News Center. I'm Frances Scott.
Once a successful television anchor in North Carolina, an active mom in her 30s with a husband and 3 kids, building a good life when hip pain took over.
They said basically, we think you were born without sockets, and then when you stood up to walk, the sockets formed in the wrong place.
Doctors recommended a double hip replacement.
I had been a runner, an athlete, really active. I'm not a sit-still kind of person, so I had put high miles on my hips, so to speak.
She says her surgeon suggested the Pinnacle with Ultimate Liner, a state-of-the-art metal-on-metal joint made by Johnson & Johnson DePuy.
These are my favorite popsicles of all time.
A major surgery for a 39-year-old mom. But doctors said she'd be back on her feet in a few months.
I just never got out of pain. I was trying to go back and be on camera, go back to work, and I had these oozing boils all over my face. That's when I started noticing the tinnitus, the hearing loss.
And memory loss.
I was driving on the interstate, the main road, and I couldn't figure out how to get back to work for, 2 or 3 minutes, and it was terrifying.
Frustrated, she searched for answers. But in the U.S., there is no medical device registry.
I could find more out about my child's car seat than I could find out about what's implanted in my body.
She did find research from England, where patients with the same implant were suffering from metal poisoning.
I kept wondering, but everyone I saw kept saying, no, the Pinnacle's great, it's a great hip. I can't help you. And then they stopped taking my appointments, so I knew I was on my own.
She lost her job, forced to sell her home and move her family to Texas.
It's a tragedy.
Attorney Mark Lanier does not represent Frances, but has successfully represented hundreds of people against the makers of metal hip replacements, the Pinnacle and Johnson & Johnson DePuy included.
The experiences have had a wide range. Some people have experienced everything from hearing loss and what are called systemic problems as those metal ions and the metal debris goes throughout the body. Some have experienced heart issues. Some have experienced memory issues. Most experience pain around the implant and a loss of muscle and ligaments.
The head of Johnson & Johnson DePuy's development team warned company leaders of issues with metal-on-metal implants in 1997 before implanting the Pinnacle with the Ultimate Liner in people. This memo filed in court shows metal-on-metal was a bad engineering design. Wear is a major problem. In simulator testing, performance is unpredictable, working well for a period of time before suffering a sudden, catastrophic breakdown, which includes releasing a large volume of debris. The FDA oversees all medical devices and drugs, but the approval process is very different. Drugs have to undergo human trials. Most medical devices do not.
So many of our doctors that we've put under oath and talked to about this were stunned to find out that the company never tested the device in people.
Essentially, we're just playing a game of whack-a-mole.
The FDA has known this is a problem, admitting it in this video 4 years ago.
One device manufacturer can meet FDA requirements and still make a poor quality device.
I think a lot of people assume that the FDA itself tests devices. And when they find out that the FDA does not, then they begin to understand that there are issues.
Johnson & Johnson DePuy faces more than 10,000 lawsuits across the country, and in January agreed to pay $120 million to resolve state attorneys general claims of deceptive marketing in metal-on-metal hip implants. The Ultimate Liner was pulled off the market in August 2013, 2 years after Frances got it.
Inside the ball.
Just last year, Frances finally found a doctor to remove her metal hips.
I would say about 80% of the symptoms that were really troubling me went away within weeks.
She says she still suffers from hearing and vision loss, and because the metal destroyed some of her tissue, she dislocated a hip last summer.
I'm not the worst case by any means.
Is it my turn?
Family time in her 40s is much different than she imagined.
Oh my goodness, I got a whole hand.
Somewhere between the loss and the pain,
What I grieve most, you can't give me back.
Frances Scott found her purpose.
I want this fixed. I want the laws changed. I want things changed so that this can't happen to other people.
A statement saying it has no greater responsibility than to the patients who use our products, and that it is, quote, confident the evidence will show the company acted appropriately and responsibly. The FDA now has stricter requirements for metal-on-metal hips, but there are currently no FDA-approved metal-on-metal hips on the market. For the KVUE Defenders, I'm Terry Gruca.